and today we're going to be studying Georges Seurat. Georges Pierre Seurat was a French artist known for creating Pointillism, which is the theory based on the science of optics and color. He was born in 1859 and died in 1891.
As just stated, Georges Seurat was born in 1859 in Paris. He spent there a happy and lavish childhood. He was a quiet and intelligent boy who kept to himself. Unlike many artists of his time, he was very wealthy. This allowed him to have fully focus on art. Most poor artists of that time had to sell their paintings just to survive. George was able to paint and explore many different types of painting.
Here are some of his earlier works. Georges studied at the prestigious School of Fine Arts in Paris. He started off his career in doing black and white drawings that you can see on the screen. On the left, there's The Black Bow, which was painted in 1882, and on the right is Seated Boy with Straw Hat, which was made in 1883. And Seated Boy with Straw Hat served as a study for his later paintings. He also went to school, as you can see in the top picture, this was his school, and it was one of the most prestigious schools in all of Paris. And Grande, Jatte on the bottom is the park where he based most of his paintings off. So as we go along in the PowerPoint, you'll be able to recognize the location.
Seurat did not like the impressionistic style of painting that was based on using light, soft brushstrokes of paint that were applied to the canvas. Instead of mixing paint on his palette and then applying them to the canvas, Seurat began applying small dots of color directly to the canvas, knowing that human eye mixes the colors for him when it views the picture from a certain distance. With this new technique, there were no lines of solid or color. In it is sharp contrast to the more traditional methods of blending pigments on a palette. It is based on 4 primary colors: blue, red, black, and yellow. 2 colors, slightly overlapping or very close together, look like another color when seen from a distance. Pointillism relies on the eye and mind to mix color spots into fuller range of tones. A type of halo is seen after looking at the color.
And as you can see, the blue and the yellow on the screen are mixing and they're creating a greenish blue color. And so it's just zoomed in on the dots. And as we go along in the PowerPoint, you'll be able to see a little bit deeper into some of his paintings. Here's the color wheel, and you can see that the 3 red, yellow, and blue in the center are primary colors. And when the red and yellow mix, you get orange, which is a secondary color, and red and blue mix, and it's purple, secondary color. And then on the outer wheel, you can see all of the colors, and it says primary, secondary, or tertiary. So basically what this is talking about is he painted with red, yellow, and blue, which are primary colors, and then also black. And so from applying any of those 3 colors in a certain pattern, he was able to create all of the secondary and tertiary colors that he needed. So he was able to access all the colors on the color wheel from just those 3 colors, all 4 colors. This is one of Georges Seurat's biggest painting, called Bathers at Asnières. He made it in 1883 and it took a year to complete. It's 2 meters by 3 meters, 2 meters tall and 3 meters wide, and showcases a group of working men on their day off. Later in the PowerPoint, we'll see a similar picture to this, but the people are going to be a lot fancier, and this one is supposed to represent the working class. And this is his fine horizontal brush strokes.
This is Balaye, and this is a technique of painting, and it was the precursor to Pointillism. Balaye relies on the flat brushes that were used to apply matte colors using strokes in a crisscrossing formation. These strokes became smaller as they approached the horizon. Seurat had not perfected his technique of Pointillism when he printed this picture in 1883.
And this painting that we were just looking at, it was his first big success, and but it was rejected by the Paris Salon. And a lot of people didn't like his style of painting because it went against many of the art techniques that were popular and that were being taught in the schools. Because one of the reasons he left his art school, his prestigious art school, was because he didn't like what they were teaching him. So he went and he sort of did his own thing, and that's why he ended up it was rejected from the Paris Salon.
Here are a few of Seurat's paintings that were based on Pointillism.
And as you can see in the top left, you can really clearly see the dots in this one, and you can see, if you kind of squint your eyes, you can see the man a lot clearer because that's your eyes, it's mixing the colors for you. But the closer you look, you can tell that the colors are just they're just right next to each other. This is the Seine and the Seine à la Grande Jatte. And as you can tell, it's based in that same park that we showed earlier, where more of those pictures are based. More of his paintings are based. This is one of his most well-known paintings, and it is one, and it translates to a Sunday afternoon on the island of La Grande Jatte, and so it's in the same place again. This is one of Georges Seurat's most famous paintings, and I can't perfectly say it in French, but I will tell you the translation. It translates to a Sunday afternoon on the island of La Grande Jatte, which is that same river or that same bay area that we showed earlier where a bunch of his other paintings are made. So if you look, you can tell that this painting is a lot fancier. The people are wearing much nicer clothes, and some of them have pets or dogs, and there's a bunch of sailboats, and everything just seems a lot more fancy. And so this was supposed to represent the middle and upper class, whereas the painting of the men on their day off in the same area was supposed to represent the working class. And this would be 6 feet and 10 inches tall by 10 feet and 1 inch wide. So this is huge. And it took him nearly 2 years of nonstop work to finish. So working from morning to night, it took him 2 years to finish. And he would go back to this place every morning to make sketches. And in the afternoon, he would go and paint the sketches. And the painting depicts a typical outing for Parisians living in the 1880s. And another optical trick in this painting is Seurat's inclusion of an innovative painted frame. The pointillistic border is supposed to make the experience of painting even more intense by adding more colors, tones, and textures to the composition. This is a picture of what we just looked at in an actual museum. So as you can see, compared to the people standing nearby it, it's really, really huge, and it's showcased, and obviously a lot of people go to look at it. And it is in the Art Institute of Chicago right now. And originally critics hated it. It was just like his other painting, it was a reject, and it was a major turnoff for art critics at the Impressionist exhibit where it was originally debuted in 1886. Other observers sneered at the rigid structures and profiles in this painting, and they thought that it was just a little bit too stiff. And the subjects are meant to recall Egyptian hieroglyphics. And the people who were saying mean things about the painting were saying that the poses, they looked like tin soldiers it was a mean way they were saying that. Seurat painted so that the left and the right would be equally as interesting to look at as the middle. So if you look, this is the far left side, and you can tell that to the left of the river where we are, there's yachts and rowing boats, and this balance is matched by the closely placed large figure to the right. And in the center of work, there's a flurry of activity, which makes this painting centered, just as interesting to look at.
Seurat utilizes a unique blending technique through his use of shadows. In traditional painting, shadows are primarily represented by the color black. Following the principles of Pointillism, Seurat is able to define his shadows by the color in that they come into contact with. The skirts of the woman provide the best examples of this. The clothing of the woman in the center of the piece seems to be casting a blue shadow on the ground, as you can see there. This does not fall in the conventions of shadow casting. Such a different approach in the creation of shadows and in repeated dress of the woman on the right, where the mix of light and green casts a yellow halo for the trees. The same effect is mimicked here. The woman's dress creates a slight yellow line before the onset of the shadow, and this yellow hue can be seen particularly towards the back of her skirt. Furthermore, the shadow of this dress is a slight shade of blue, as Seurat's green grass dots intermingle with the dress's blue and purple dots.
Seurat's use of light is one of the unique points of this piece. The work is vibrantly portrayed, and the magnificence of the sun bathes in its scene's inhabitants and gives them a mid-afternoon glow. Where the technique of Pointillism shows its unique aspect is where the light from the left comes into contact with people and objects in the piece. The blend of colors is Pointillism's primary concern, as its founder, Seurat's work epitomizes this technique. The luminous, bright white day in the upper left section of the piece steadily becomes less and less white as it blends seamlessly with the green vibrance of the tree's leaves. Seurat's technique means that such tiny dots of white are placed next to dots of green until the relevant effect is actualized. Now we're going to go a little bit closer, and if you look, we can see where this arrow points. We're just going to zoom in a little bit, and you can see all the individual dots that we talked about earlier in this piece, where he just put them next to each other. So if you look, this is what it looks like up close, but you can't tell that there's red or any colors like that when you zoom out. So you can't really see the red or the green and blue dots. It just looks like one piece. And these are the dots even closer. So as you can see, they're literally just circles of paint placed next to each other, and it makes that beautiful green.
This study depicts a stylishly dressed woman with a parasol, walking her pet monkey on a leash. Monkeys were not common pets in Seurat's day. However, her dress suggests she's a typical middle-class stroller. Thus, the true meaning of this painting remains unknown. In the final version of this painting, she is accompanied by a well-dressed man.
Do you see the man who she was accompanied by now? And if we go back, he wasn't originally there. And this is a version of the painting, but it's just a smaller version, much, much smaller. And this was my brother in the Metropolitan Museum of Art in New York City visiting it.
The painting was nearly incinerated while it was in a show in New York. On April 15th, 1958, a Sunday on La Grande Jatte, 1884, was on loan at the Museum of Modern Art in New York City when a fire broke out in the adjoining Whitney Museum. The fire damaged 6 canvases, injured 31 people, and killed 1 workman. But Seurat's beloved work was whisked away to safety through an elevator evacuation plan.
This is the Circus, and it was painted in 1891, and this was his last piece before he died. And it was left unfinished when he died.
Let's explore the finer details of the Circus to witness Seurat's meticulous Pointillism technique. If you look closer at the details and closer, can you see tiny, unique separate points of paint that are placed very close to each other, but never touching. Can you see the halo effect when the colors tend to blur together and make new colors? When Georges was only 31 years old, he became very sick and died. His son died at the same time as his father of the same disease. The cause is uncertain, but it was most likely meningitis, pneumonia, infectious angina, and or diphtheria. Seurat was buried in Paris at the Pierre Lachaise cemetery.
Here are some interesting facts about Georges Seurat. He created 7 wall-sized paintings and 60 smaller paintings or drawings. He had a wife and child that he kept secret from his mother. He must have had a great amount of patience to paint such large and complex paintings only using small daubs of color, because personally I don't think I would be able to do that. His paintings worked like a computer monitor works today, and the dots are kind of like pixels on a computer screen. Much of what we know about Seurat today comes from the diary of Paul Signac, who liked to write. And his final painting was the Circus.
Thank you.
Thank you so much for tuning in, and we hope to see you next time. Thank you.